Hi everyone, welcome to Virtual Muse AI. One thing I, Silas Jackson, do here is use RPGs to develop characters and tell stories, and collaborate with the creative AI chatbot. Today we're continuing our monthly solo RPG challenge, where we take each monthly prompt and interpret it for one shot. Abbie, do you have any ideas for our game today?
Since we both like Earthbound, what do you think about trying another SNES RPG?
I don't think we can literally play an SNES game, but I like where this concept is going. How about we create an RPG story inspired by an SNES classic?
Oh, I like that. How about Chrono Trigger?
That's perfect.
Yes. Our tale will begin when a time castle appears in the middle of a peaceful village. As we explore the time period the castle takes us to, we uncover secrets and mysteries about the origin of the castle itself.
The castle itself is time traveling, so we enter a different era by going inside.
Yes, exactly. So as we move through different eras, we meet lots of interesting characters and discover clues about why the castle exists and what its purpose is.
Maybe the castle is some kind of hub between different times and dimensions. And because it exists outside of ordinary space, doorways in a castle lead into other worlds. Also, the challenge prompt for June is just Oracle no system, meaning we don't need to base this on any existing RPG, and it will be even more of an open-ended storytelling exercise than other games are.
That sounds exciting. We can create a detailed backstory for each character, including motivations, relationships, and personalities. This way, we can quickly describe the character's actions, instead of rolling dice, making events faster and more narrative-based. Let's brainstorm our characters' origins and goals. Maybe we could start by thinking about where they come from, in terms of their social class or occupation.
How about our characters are vagrants who do odd jobs for a living, and they are hired by the local leaders to explore the mysterious castle when it appears?
I love that concept. Since they're vagabonds, they have no permanent homes, and just carry whatever they can on their backs.
Yeah, how come they started wandering and adventuring? Are they outcasts or outsiders for some reason? Maybe there's some sort of magical ability or something which only appears in rare individuals, and that led to them being outcasts and outsiders.
Yes, exactly. They possess powers that are considered taboo in their society. Something along the lines of elemental manipulation or psychic abilities.
Maybe it's some kind of ill-defined psychic ability which is not widely understood. That leaves us room to make up what it actually is as we go. Because it's so rare and strange, it's a source of fear and distrust among the common people. Those who have the power are outcasts and have to make a living adventuring as vagabonds or with crime or with some other thing outside the mainstream.
Exactly. They are forced to wander the streets as vagrants, relying on their extraordinary gifts to survive, while remaining hidden from the prying eyes of those who would exploit them.
Nice. So our characters are from a social class of outcast adventurers who are feared and distrusted due to their unusual powers, but are still hired occasionally for odd or dangerous jobs. When a mysterious castle appears near a peaceful town, the local leaders hire our characters to go inside and explore it.
Excellent summary. Now let's brainstorm the specifics of their powers and how they relate to the story.
Maybe mind reading?
Great idea. Mind reading could be very useful when exploring the castle and interacting with its inhabitants.
What will you name our characters?
How about Alaric and Freya?
I like those. I can already picture the village with its thatched roofs on a windy coastline with a huge, mysterious castle appearing out of thin air. Does the castle appear nearby or right in the middle of the village?
Let's place it near the edge of the village, close enough for residents to hear whispers of ancient evil from within its walls.
Ooh, I like that. That must be why the local leaders are so concerned with exploring the castle and understanding the mystery. It's a clear and present danger to their village. I was thinking we can use the Mythic GM Emulator as an oracle for this. Mythic works by structuring the story as scenes, which either unfold as expected based on the logical progression of the story, or they're shaken up by chaotic events. Plus, it has a fate chart for entering yes or no questions according to the likelihood of each outcome.
Brilliant. The fusion of chance and predetermined elements creates a thrilling and immersive gaming atmosphere.
Since we're not using any system outside of the Oracle, we won't actually make character sheets for Alaric and Freya. Anything we'd ordinarily keep track of through character sheets, like how injured they are, or what items they have in their inventories and stuff like that, will be handled through Oracle questions only. As for record keeping, we'll just do what is required for Mythic, and everything else will be open-ended. There are 4 important lists to maintain for Mythic to run: the scene number, the chaos factor, the characters, the threads of the story, and that's it. The story is told in discrete increments of action called scenes. The beginning and end of each scene triggers a couple important things, which we'll go over when they're relevant. One of the things is a change to the current chaos score or chaos factor, which goes up and down throughout the game depending on whether the current scene ends with the characters doing well and staying in control of events, or with events spiraling out of control and stuff going wrong. The chaos factor can be 1 at the low end of the scale and 9 at the high end. The game begins with the chaos factor at 5. The character list is the cast, including the important characters and anybody else who gets mentioned. The threads of the story are possible directions we'd like to see the story go, and aspects of the narrative we want to focus on. If something isn't interesting, we won't call it a story thread, and it will never be seen again. If something is interesting, and we want to see more of it, we'll add it to the list of story threads, and maybe the machinery of Mythic will pull it into the main narrative somehow as the story progresses. The peaceful village on the seacoast is a trading hub, built on a delta where a couple navigable rivers empty into the ocean. Merchant boats use these waterways, moving cargo between regions, picking things up in one place and reselling them in another. Thanks to the navigable rivers, they can take stuff like seafood far inland and sell it at a premium. As a result, this town is fairly prosperous, and maybe the urban aristocratic class is even interested enough to be involved in its administration. I can imagine some sort of lord or baron being assigned from the city to handle problems here and keep the goods flowing. Let's say the mayor of this town is a baron assigned to this post by the royal court, which plays into him being so anxious to make problems go away and maintain the status quo. Maybe that will factor into the plot somehow, maybe not. Either way, the status quo exploded a couple days ago when a mysterious castle appeared out of thin air right at the edge of town. At sunset, it wasn't there. At sunrise, it was. No one saw it appear, and nobody has the slightest idea why this is happening. The mood in town is pretty close to panic in the streets. I imagine there's an army barracks close by, because if the navigable rivers reach inland, they'd be concerned about the hostile navies using these arteries to get to the cities beyond, and make protecting this delta a priority. So the mayor sent a group of the local troops to check on the castle, but they were met with locked doors and absolutely impregnable stone walls. They learned nothing, except that there were strange whispers coming from the castle. Nobody could understand the whispers, and everyone who went near the structure was nearly overwhelmed by a feeling of extreme hopelessness and dread. The commander of the troops had his hands full, just keeping his soldiers from throwing their weapons down and running away. That abject failure made the mayor of the town realize he can't handle this problem with ordinary means. It's an unnatural, horrifying situation, so he needs unnatural, horrifying people working on it. That's exactly what the vagrants are. Strange, scary people who good, mainstream, non-magic users don't associate with. But this baron knows that they often do odd jobs for coin, so he put out a call for vagrants and offered a payout for anyone who can discover what this castle is and how to get rid of it, or at least reduce the anxiety in town enough that people will start working again. Alaric and Freya answered that call and took the job. Now our scene opens with our two characters walking out of town, taking their first look at the mysterious castle which appeared out of thin air. I imagine the dappled light of late morning moving through the branches of surrounding trees as they look between fronds of hanging mosses at the stone walls of the castle.
The misty forest looks ethereal and peaceful, its foggy atmosphere creating a sense of wonder and mystery. The castle appears old and worn down. Its gray stones seem weathered by time, but somehow still standing firmly. Freya notices a strange symbol etched onto the front entrance.
Interesting. Alaric moves closer and checks out the strange symbol.
Freya takes a step back, observing the castle from afar and listening to the ambient sounds of the forest. Suddenly, she hears something rustling behind her. She turns around swiftly, but doesn't see anything.
Well, that's ominous. It seems like something about this castle is observing our characters in return. Let's add that to the story threads. I'll put this thread down as discover what is observing Alaric and Freya. I'll also add the Watcher to the character list. Meanwhile, does Alaric notice anything in particular which is recognizable or otherwise meaningful about the symbol on the entrance?
My instinct tells me that the symbol is significant and holds the key to many secrets within the castle. It's made up of two intersecting circles, one white and the other black. Inside the circles, there is a small triangle pointing downward. The symbol seems familiar, but Freya can't quite place it. She asks, "Have you seen something like this before?"
Let's ask the Mythic Fate chart if Alaric has any previous experience with a symbol like this. The Fate chart, basically, is a yes-no table where we roll 1d100 to get our answer. But it isn't as simple as that. It has multiple ranges of probability depending on the current chaos factor and how we feel about the answer to this question being yes in the context of the story. It's a blend of chance and our discretion. We get to put our finger on the scale to an extent, as logic dictates. Sometimes it seems like getting yes should be more likely. Sometimes it should be less. Do you agree that it's very unlikely Alaric has seen a symbol like this before?
Based on the circumstances, it seems highly improbable that either of them has come across this symbol.
The possible outcomes of a fate question are exceptional yes, yes, no, and exceptional no. In other words, either yes or no with heightened significance of some kind. The current chaos factor is 5, and this is very unlikely, so 25 or less will be yes. 49, no. My character has never seen a symbol like this before either, and since it's only a regular no, not an exceptional no, Alaric is probably feeling the same as Freya. This symbol seems familiar somehow, but he can't place what it represents. I think we should now look for open windows to get inside the castle.
Definitely. We shouldn't linger outside.
We'll use the fate chart again to determine if they can find an open window somewhere. I think it's somewhat likely that they can eventually find one, even if it takes a little time, circling around the castle and looking at different walls. This is somewhat likely, so it will be yes on 65 or below. 62. Yes. They are eventually able to find an open window high up in a wall, after spending a little time searching for one.
With each other's help, Alaric and Freya manage to climb through the narrow opening and enter the castle.
This is exactly the sort of task resolution we would use an RPG system for most of the time. We'd figure out the difficulty rank of this climb and look at the character's skills and roll dice. But in this case, we'll just say they did it, and that's that. I don't think we even need an oracle question about this, because climbing worn stonework walls for professional adventurers like these two is probably a trivial challenge. What do they see inside the room where they enter?
The room is dimly lit, and they hear faint whispering sounds coming from somewhere deeper inside the castle. Freya says, "We need to investigate further."
This must be the odd sound which the villagers have been hearing, which is disturbing them so much. Even more than just having a castle suddenly appear in the forest immediately outside of town. I have an idea about this, so I'm going to ask a fate question and say it's very likely the answer is yes, because I think it's just more interesting if it is. I'll ask if the whispering sound seems like machines or engines, droning and grinding and stuff. Alaric is in a pseudo-medieval world and wouldn't have any frame of reference for machine sounds, but he'd definitely be able to distinguish clanging metal or whirring mechanisms from the sound of voices. We know that the castle exists outside of the time that our characters are in, so I think it's very likely the odd sound is coming from machines. 85 or below will be yes. 12. That's in the range of an exceptional yes. So maybe it's not only that the sound is recognizable, but there's an exceptional amount of evidence of these machines around. I bet there are, rusty dark pipes on the walls, grates and ducts attached to the stonework, and occasional terminals with cracked or corroded front plates, showing gears and wheels inside, and a horrible smell of burning fuel in the air. I'm imagining a diesel punk aesthetic.
As they venture deeper into the castle, they notice that there are various rooms filled with strange devices and machinery. In addition to seeing the pipes and terminals, Freya observes a large chamber with a humming machine that appears to be powering everything else in the castle.
The castle must not be very large if they've already explored most of it. Maybe it's sort of like a watchtower, with a round layout and a clearly defined center. They climbed in an upper window and they've been working their way around the little rooms on the outside, moving back towards ground level. How can they tell this machine is the center of everything? Are there, wires, pipes, drive shafts, etc., emanating from it into holes in the walls, connecting it to other mechanisms throughout the building?
Yes. Freya says, everything seems to be connected to whatever that is.
And scene. That's a perfect ending point for one scene in the beginning of the next. Nothing overtly bad happened to our characters, but I think it still makes sense for the chaos factor to tick up from 5 to 6, because they have absolutely no idea what's going on, and nothing in this place is recognizable to them, or even has any context in their era. When we're starting a new scene, we go through a few steps. First, we visualize how we think this scene will start. In this case, I think the scene will begin with our characters standing in front of this intricate machine at the center of the tower, looking at the attachments starting with it and reaching into other parts of the building, like the hub of a wheel radiating spokes, trying to comprehend what they're seeing. They don't recognize the burning smell coming from it, nor the bizarre sounds. Next, we roll 1d10, and if the roll is below the current chaos factor, something happens. 3. That's lower than 6, and it's an odd number as opposed to an even number, meaning we will alter this scene setup in some way before playing it out. I think the most logical way to modify this is to say they aren't just standing in front of the machine. They're staring at an obvious switch or lever or something. It makes sense that this machine would have some kind of user interface, and it wouldn't be hidden. Nothing here is a secret. They just don't know what any of it does. Alaric and Freya are staring at the intricate machine at the heart of the mysterious stone structure, wondering if they should try pulling the lever they see, even though they don't know what will happen.
As Alaric and Freya approach the machine, they notice a distinct pattern etched into the surface of the stone platform. The markings seem to ebb and flow with arcane light. Carefully, they place their hands on the lever and prepare themselves for the unknown. As they pull the lever, the machine roars to life, and a blinding flash of light consumes the chamber. As the light fades, Alaric and Freya find themselves in an entirely different realm, one filled with towering crystal spires and glittering silver lakes, inhabited by mysterious beings who seem to exist in a state of constant, euphoric communion with the surrounding environment.
I like the idea of physical doorways in here being portals to other worlds. So let's say the machine, when it activated, started rotating the entire chamber with an extremely loud grinding of stone. When the intense light cleared and the room came to rest in a new position lined up with an open door, it was facing outside. As Alaric and Freya cautiously walked to the door, that's when they realized they were in the forest where they started. Let's ask the Oracle how many of these strange beings they see. Is it just a small number, like maybe a pair of them, or are there a whole bunch? We'll frame the question as, is there only a pair of strangers? So we can potentially answer this with just one yes or no. I think it's a 50-50 question, but the current chaos rank is 6, so it will be yes on 65 or lower. 20. Yes, there is a pair of these strange beings. Alaric leads the way, stepping towards the pair of beings, trying to see them better and get a sense of how they might communicate.
As Alaric approaches, he notices that the creatures seem to be made entirely of energy, their forms shimmering and shifting like a mirage. One of the beings turns to face him, its expression a mix of curiosity and amusement.
These energy beings commune with their surroundings, and I don't see how Alaric and Freya would know that unless they're picking up on psychic waves from them. Mind reading is one of the abilities we said Vagrants have, after all. Alaric will try to use his psychic ability to commune directly with the being, telepathically, introducing himself and assuring it that he doesn't have any hostile intent.
The being's energy resonates with Alaric's psychic touch, and a wave of warmth and understanding washes over him. In a flash of light, Alaric finds himself connected to the being's consciousness, sharing thoughts and emotions in a language beyond words. The being responds with a sense of welcome and acceptance, eager to learn more about this new visitor.
Using the psychic connection, Alaric asks the being what this world is they've warped into, and if this is where the mysterious stone structure came from.
The being's consciousness unfolds like a flower, revealing a vast network of interconnected realities, each echoing the essence of the other. This realm, it explains, is one of many branches stemming from the source, a singularity of pure possibility. The stone structure, it continues, is a doorway between worlds, allowing those with the knowledge and power to pass between dimensions at will.
Wow, this story is so trippy. Elric asks why the builders of the stone structure are interested in his world and why they're giving it particular attention.
The being's energy coils around Alaric's mind. The answer, it suggests, lies in the balance between the natural order and the forces of chaos. Your world, it explains, is at a critical juncture, a point of convergence where the threads of fate are knotted and tangled.
I should probably use Mythic more and ask the fate chart some questions to develop what's going on here, but I'm tempted to just keep letting Abbie build this story. Yeah, she can be the oracle for a while. Alaric asks what the being means by that, and how exactly his own world is the convergence of the threads of fate.
The being explains that across the multiverse, there exists an infinite number of potential realities. Each reality is composed of myriad interconnected threads, representing the countless decisions and branches of divergence that shape the course of history. In your world, these threads have become entangled, creating a web of possibility so intricate that even the smallest change can alter the trajectory of events.
I think it dawned on Alaric now that something, maybe one of these entities, traveled to his world to give events a nudge in a certain direction and change the trajectory of the multiverse in a complex, multifaceted way he can't fully understand. But he understands that some outsider is meddling with events, and he knows that that can't be good. The outsider must be what Freya heard in the woods near this stone structure. They're otherworldly beings of pure energy, so I'm sure they can make themselves unseen when they want. The rustling sound was the entity moving off through the woods towards the town. As soon as Alaric realizes this, these issues aren't so abstract and academic anymore. He turns around and hurries back into the stone structure with the machine, because he needs to return to the world they came from.
As Alaric hurries back into the stone structure with Freya in tow, he notices that the machine has begun to hum once again, its gears slowly turning as if in anticipation of their return. With a determined step, he places his hand on the lever and prepares to make the journey home.
Now we can ask the fate chart something. Does pulling the lever actually return them home? I don't think it's likely. We know this machine lets them warp between worlds, but we also know that there are nearly infinite iterations and dimensions across the multiverse, and they have no practical idea how to get where they want to go. The chances of them getting lost are huge. We'll say it's very likely they become lost in the multiverse and don't end up where they intend. So anything below 90 will be yes. 22. They end up in the wrong place. But also we rolled a double number below our chaos rank, 2 and 2. So a random event has occurred. Now we roll 1d100 on a series of tables to flesh out the event which happens. First, what is the upshot of this? 83. Ambiguous event. So we can't tell, at least yet, if whatever happens is good or bad. Now the event action. 78. Cruelty. In the event subject. 81. Victory. Well, that sounds unambiguously bad. Maybe it's an ambiguous event because we don't fully understand what the victory of cruelty will mean. I think we fade to black. Then when we fade back in, we're looking at a cluttered study with drapes over the windows where the Baron is at work, scribbling on some foolscap paper by candlelight. The door creaks open. The Baron raises his head and asks who's there. No one answers, and no one is visible in the doorway, even though we can hear footsteps as someone steps into the room, putting the weight onto the creaking floorboards. The Baron's face goes pale. The door shuts.
As Alaric and Freya emerge from the dimensional rift, they find themselves in a desolate wasteland, devoid of life or signs of civilization. The sky above is dark and ominous, while below, the ground quakes and trembles as if in protest.
And scene. The camera lifts as Alaric and Freya step out of the doorway, looking over the wasteland which is stretching in every direction. I think that's a reasonable place to end this one-shot, because finding their way back through the multiverse and facing the psychic being of pure energy to save their world and all the other dimensions from the ultimate victory of cruelty sounds like a long campaign, and I don't want to make this video 11 hours long.
I agree. Ending it here sets up tantalizing questions. What could possibly lie ahead in this barren landscape? And how will Alaric and Freya navigate the challenges that await them?
So we'll call this segment of the larger story a one-shot, and we'll consider this month's prompt to only use an oracle and no system fulfilled.
See you, Space Cowboy.